Hello, you're on the Reddit Reveals channel. The eggs were still on the floor when she walked in. Scrambled, half-cooked, dripping off the tile like yellow regret. She didn't even flinch. Just looked at the mess, then at me, then said it. You look better without me. No hello. No apology. No I miss you. Just that. And I stood there, barefoot in the wreckage, wondering if I should laugh or cry. Let me rewind. Not to the beginning of our marriage. That's boring. But to the moment I realized something in me had died. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. I was making coffee, and I sneezed. No, bless you. I know that sounds ridiculous. But after 7 years together, silence after a sneeze feels like an obituary. I stared at her, waiting. She scrolled her phone. Kept scrolling. That was the moment. That's when the begging began. Not for sneezes. For anything. A smile. A squeeze on the shoulder. Eye contact that lasted longer than a flicker. But no, she gave me performance reviews instead of affection. You're too needy. You take things personally. I don't owe you intimacy just because we're married. She said these things while brushing her teeth, while folding towels, while scrolling TikTok. And I wrote them down. I don't know why. Maybe to prove it happened. Maybe because I thought someday she'd ask, was I really that cold to you? And I'd have evidence. She never asked. Eventually I stopped writing and started erasing myself. I got quieter, started nodding instead of speaking, sleeping on the edge of the bed like a scared animal. The only thing louder than the silence was the way she laughed with strangers on the phone. But this isn't a story about my breakdown. This is about what happened after I left. Because today, after 327 days of no contact, she walked back in through my door. Unannounced, uninvited. Saw the broken egg carton, the scattered yolks, the frying pan still smoking on the burner, and told me I looked better without her. She didn't come to apologize. She came to ask a question, and I haven't told anyone what she asked until now. She sat down on my couch like she still lived here. Shoes on, bag tossed on the floor like it belonged. I didn't say a word. She took one look at the plant on the windowsill and asked, "You finally started watering it." The plant wasn't the only thing dying back then, but it was the only one that bounced back. I stayed standing. Maybe because if I sat, it would feel real. She crossed her legs like nothing had happened, as if nearly a year of silence was just a short pause in a conversation we never finished. And then she said it. The question. The one that's been crawling under my skin since she left. Do you even know why I stopped loving you? Not if she did. Not whether she regretted it. But why? Like she had a whole thesis ready. Like she expected me to take notes. And the worst part? I didn't have an answer. Not a good one. Not a clear one. Only guesses. Theories I'd whispered to myself in the dark. Maybe I was boring. Maybe I asked for too much. Maybe she met someone better. But I didn't know. I blinked. She smiled like she'd won something. Exactly, she whispered. That's when something in me cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a small internal fracture. Because I realized. All that time I spent crying into cold sheets, blaming myself, trying to solve the riddle of her distance. She already had the answer. And she never thought I deserved to hear it. She started walking through the apartment like she was touring a memory. Touched the bookshelf. Looked at the hallway mirror. Picked up a mug I bought her 3 birthdays ago and smirked. You kept this. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her and shake her and ask, why now? Why after all this time do you suddenly care what's still here? But all I said was, why are you here, Corinne? She didn't answer right away. Just sat again, this time looking straight at me. Eyes darker than I remembered. I'm not here to fix anything. I need to tell you something. Her voice cracked, only slightly, but enough to shut me up. You remember my friend Luca? From the gym? I nodded slowly. The one she always swore was like a brother. The one she laughed with louder than she ever laughed with me. The one she told me to stop being jealous of. He's dead. 2 words. No tears. No breath. Just that. And then everything that followed made me realize that while I had been grieving a marriage, she had been hiding something so much worse. At first, I didn't say anything. Because what do you say when your ex-wife walks into your home, insults your haircut, steps over a broken breakfast, and then casually drops a death in your lap like it's small talk? Luca is dead. The words just sat in the room, like an unwanted guest neither of us wanted to acknowledge. She didn't cry, not even close. But her jaw tightened like she was holding back something. Not sadness, but guilt. I know the difference now. I sat down. Finally. Not because I wanted to, but because my knees buckled. You're not going to ask how, she said. I stared at her. Should I? She looked wounded by that. Good. She cleared her throat. He had a brain aneurysm. Died in his sleep. No warning. His roommate found him the next morning. I waited for her to connect it to me. To us. Because she didn't come all this way just to tell me about a guy I was never allowed to talk about. And then it came, softly, like something she rehearsed 1,000 times. He was the reason I left. There it was. The answer I never got. The one I begged for. But it didn't bring relief. It brought disgust. You cheated, I said. It wasn't a question. No, she shot back. Too quickly. Not technically. Technically. That word felt like acid on my tongue. She started pacing. It wasn't physical. Not until after I left. But I loved him. I think I did. I still don't know. He made me feel like I mattered. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The kind of laugh that's more about survival than humor. You think I didn't try to make you feel like you mattered? You think those nights I begged for your attention were just, what? Me being needy? She winced. You don't understand. Then make me understand. I yelled, louder than I expected. My voice echoed off the cheap walls. The neighbor's dog barked. She looked like she was about to bolt. Like she hadn't expected me to raise my voice. Like I was the problem now, too. And that's when I said something I'd never said to her. Not even in the worst nights. Not even when I slept on the couch just to avoid the weight of her silence. You are the cruelest person I've ever loved. She flinched. Then she sat. Again. Same spot. Same smirk, trying to disguise regret. He told me once, she whispered, that I'd regret how I treated you. That caught me off guard. He said, that man would walk through fire for you, and you hand him ice. And just like that, I felt nothing. No love. No longing. Just ash. Cold, heavy ash. She looked up at me with those same eyes I once memorized. I need to know, do you hate me? I didn't answer, because hate would have required more energy than she was worth. But what she said next changed everything. Luca had a secret. One that involved you. My mouth went dry the second she said it. Not because I believed her, but because she was the kind of woman who never said anything she couldn't use later. Every sentence from Corinne had a second blade hidden behind it. And now she was holding a sentence that felt like a weapon. Luca had a secret. One that involved you. I didn't respond at first. I watched her closely. The way her fingers kept twitching like she wanted a cigarette. The way her left foot bounced rapidly against the floor. I used to think she was unreadable. But in that moment, I could see it clearly. She wasn't just sad. She was scared. Don't be dramatic, I finally muttered. The man's dead. Let him stay that way. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, voice low. He told me, 3 months before he died. Swore me to secrecy. Said he didn't want to ruin you. I laughed again. I didn't even mean to. It was sharp, cruel, involuntary. The kind of laugh that said I don't believe you, but I'm terrified I might have to. Ruin me? I was already ruined, Corinne. You just vacuumed up the ashes and left. She didn't bite back. Just stared at her hands. Then she said something I'll never forget. Luca told me, you're not who you think you are. My stomach twisted. What the hell does that mean? She hesitated. Not like she was choosing her words carefully. More like she was considering if she should speak at all. Then, slow and deliberate, she pulled a small black notebook from her bag. Thin, worn, elastic band barely hanging on. She held it in her lap like a priest holding confession. I found this in his apartment the night I cleared it out, she said. It was hidden in the back of his closet, under a box of vinyls. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't not. She opened the first page. A name. My name. My full name. First, middle, last. Spelled exactly right. My heart pounded. My vision blurred at the edges. She slid the notebook across the table, just enough so I could see it, but not touch it. He had pages on you. Notes. Times. Places. Conversations you don't even remember. That's insane. No, it's worse, she whispered. He followed you. I felt the air leave the room. Why? I asked, barely able to get the word out. She looked up at me, her voice shaking for the first time. Because he thought someone like you doesn't just end up forgotten. She pushed the notebook closer. Read it, and then you'll understand why I left. And why I came back. I didn't want to pick it up. Not because I didn't believe her anymore, but because some part of me did. And what scared me most was that, deep down, I knew there was something in that notebook I had been avoiding my entire life. Something Luca saw before anyone else. I picked up the notebook with 2 fingers, like it might burn. The cover was cracked leather, warm from her lap. It smelled faintly like dust and cologne. The kind of cheap cologne Luca always wore, the kind that lingered long after he left a room. My fingers trembled as I undid the worn elastic strap. I wasn't ready, but I knew there was no turning back. The first page was simple. My full name, printed in all caps. Underneath, a date from 2 years ago. Then another, and another. Dozens of dates. Times. Locations. No explanations. You don't remember seeing him? Corinne asked quietly. I tried not to see him, I muttered. Every time he came up, you insisted he was harmless. She looked down. I was wrong. I flipped the page. There, in looping cursive, were lines that chilled me. March 8th. Followed him after work. He stopped at the same gas station again. Didn't buy anything. Just sat in the car staring at the pump for 23 minutes. What is he waiting for? March 15th. He smiled at the cashier today. First time I've seen him smile. She didn't smile back. He still thanked her like it mattered. April 2nd. He went to the park. Alone. Just stood there for almost an hour. Watched dogs play. Didn't touch his phone once. Either he's hiding something, or he's broken. Each page was like a punch to the ribs. The things I thought were private, my sadness, my spirals, my numb little rituals, they were all documented. Like I was a case study. A subject. I flipped ahead. The entries got darker. May 5th, I think he knows. He looked right at me today, like he saw me, but didn't say anything. Smart. He's smarter than he looks. May 17th, she doesn't deserve him. He'd cut off pieces of himself just to make her comfortable. It's disgusting to watch. May 28th, I don't know what I'm doing. This is more than curiosity. This is obsession. And I think I hate him for making me care. I closed the notebook. My hands were sweating. My heartbeat was a jackhammer in my ears. Why would he write this? Why would he? He was losing it, Corinne said quietly. You didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. He was unraveling, obsessing over you. At first I thought it was guilt, that he felt bad for what happened between us. But the more I read, the more I realized he envied you. Envied me. I scoffed. For what? For being the man his girl didn't want? No, she whispered. Because you didn't need anyone to fall apart. He needed the world to adore him just to feel okay. But you were in pieces and still stood up. I didn't know what to say. I didn't want her admiration. Not now. Not ever again. I looked back at the notebook. At that ugly, spiraling handwriting. And then I saw it. A folded piece of paper, taped inside the back cover. Corinne didn't react. That wasn't there when I read it, she whispered. I peeled it open. My breath caught in my throat. There was a photo. An old one. Me, from behind, sitting on a bench. I didn't know it had been taken. And below the photo, a handwritten note in all caps. He doesn't know who he really is. I froze. What does that mean? I asked, my voice hoarse. Corinne looked pale now. Her voice dropped. That's why I came back. Because Luca didn't just follow you. He found something. And I think it has something to do with your family. I stared at her. My family's dead. She nodded. I know. That's what makes it so strange. Because according to Luca's notes, someone was watching you, too. The silence between us was unbearable. Not the kind that asks for forgiveness, but the kind that precedes a confession. The kind that tastes like metal in your mouth. Sharp, cold, final. I set the notebook down slowly, like it might detonate. You're saying someone else was watching me? Corinne nodded. She wasn't smirking anymore. That subtle smugness she always carried, gone. Replaced by something raw, uneasy. I didn't believe it at first, she said, voice barely above a whisper. But it's in his last entries. Lucas started noticing patterns. Repeated faces. Cars. He thought it was coincidence. Then paranoia. Then something else entirely. I tried to laugh. I wanted to reject every word coming out of her mouth. But deep inside, something started to stir, not fear exactly. Recognition. That horrible, gnawing feeling I'd been trying to forget for years. Like when I'd leave the gym late at night and swear I saw a figure across the street. Or when I'd go to my car in the morning and find the driver's seat pushed slightly farther back. Too subtle to be certain, but just enough to feel wrong. He thought I was being watched. I muttered, not sure if I was asking or remembering. Not just you, she said. Your apartment. Your work. Your online accounts. That's insane. I know. But listen to this. She pulled out a second folded page, one she had apparently kept in her coat pocket. This wasn't in the notebook. It was loose. I wasn't going to show you. But after seeing how he tracked you, I think you have a right to see it. She unfolded the paper and handed it to me. I stared at it. It was a printed photo. A grainy black and white surveillance still, dated 3 years ago. It showed me, standing outside my old office building, holding a coffee cup. The timestamp at the bottom corner didn't match my memory. I had no idea that photo even existed. Where did he get this? I asked. Corinne swallowed. He never said. Just that it was proof someone else was following you before he did. I don't understand, I said. What would anyone want from me? I'm nobody. She flinched at that. Luca didn't think so. He said you were planted. That's the word he used. I felt the floor shift under me. Planted. He believed. You weren't just some guy who had a bad marriage and a boring job. He thought you were part of something you didn't know about. That your whole life, who you think you are, was built on top of something else. I laughed, but it was hollow. So what? I'm a sleeper agent now? Is this where you tell me I was brainwashed? Corinne didn't laugh. She looked at me like I was already a ghost. He was going to confront you, she said. That night before he died. He told me. Said he couldn't keep it in anymore. He said, if he knew the truth, it would ruin him. But maybe he deserves to know who he is. I stared at the photo again. The timestamp, the posture, the grain. And then I noticed it. In the far left edge of the frame, barely visible, a reflection in the glass door behind me. A man. Not me. Not Luca. Watching me. I had never seen that face before. But something about it made my blood run cold. Who was that? I asked. Corinne didn't answer. Because in that moment, her phone buzzed. One notification. One word on the screen. Unknown, stop. Corinne stared at the message like it had teeth. Her hands shook as she slowly turned the phone toward me, the glowing screen flickering in the dim light of my apartment. One word. All caps. No punctuation. Unknown. Stop. My stomach dropped. How long have you been getting those? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she went to the window and drew the curtains shut, peering out into the street like she expected headlights to swing across our faces. There was nothing. Just the usual stillness of our neighborhood. A few porch lights, the soft hum of a distant car, a dog barking like it always did around this time. But that night, even the ordinary felt staged. Too quiet. Too intentional. I got one after Luca's funeral, she finally said. Then another a week later, after I packed up his things. No number. No trace. Just the same word. Stop. I thought it was spam. But then I found the notebook. She sat down again, her voice cracking now in a way it hadn't before. I think we're in something we don't understand. You dragged me into it, I snapped. You brought that notebook. You came here. No, she said, shaking her head. You were already in it. I just didn't want you to find out alone. Her words landed heavy. Because the truth was, I hadn't felt alone in a long time. I'd felt invisible, unseen, like a ghost haunting a life no one else could see. But now it felt like someone had always been looking, and not with love or even contempt. With purpose. I went back to the photo, the reflection in the glass. The figure, sharp suit, shaved head, blurred features. I tried to convince myself it was coincidence, a passerby, a fluke of timing. But there was something in the angle of his body, the stillness in his stance. He wasn't just passing by. He was stationed there, like he belonged in the shadows, like he had always been there. Corinne handed me another page from the notebook. A handwritten map. My neighborhood. My street. My building. Circled dates. Arrows. Times. He thought they were watching your building from the west side, near the alley behind the laundromat, she whispered. He wrote that they never used the same car twice. That they came at intervals, just enough to avoid suspicion. This is insane, I said, standing up. My legs felt numb. You're telling me I've been spied on for years, by people I don't know, for reasons no one will explain, and now the one person who might have known is dead. Corinne's eyes didn't leave mine. What if he wasn't supposed to die? The words hit like a slap. I sat back down. You think they'd killed him? I don't know, she said. But I don't believe it was just an aneurysm. He was young. Fit. No history. And just days before he was going to tell you everything. He dies in his sleep? Alone? I didn't answer. I couldn't. She reached into her coat again and pulled out one last object, a flash drive. I found this tucked inside his razor kit, she said, hidden in a false bottom. I haven't opened it. I don't even know if it's encrypted, but I think it's for you. I took it slowly, feeling its weight as if it held more than data. It felt like a key. To what? I had no idea. We sat in silence again. Only this time, it felt like something was listening. My laptop sat on the coffee table. Corinne glanced at it, then at me. You don't have to look. You can burn it. Pretend none of this happened. Go back to your job, your sad apartment, your perfectly numbed little life. I didn't move. But if you open it, she said, you'll never get to unknow what's inside. The flash drive clicked softly as I plugged it in. The screen flickered. One file. No title. No timestamp. Just a black icon pulsing like a heartbeat. And a single question in plain text. Do you want the truth? I hovered over the file, my fingers shaking above the trackpad. That blinking icon felt like a living thing, watching me, waiting. For a second, I thought about closing the laptop, walking away, never touching the flash drive again. But I was tired. Not just of questions, of not knowing. Of living a life with holes in the walls and calling it privacy. Of being haunted by whispers and calling it marriage. Of convincing myself that love meant begging and silence meant peace. So I opened the file. It was a video, grainy at first. Then it sharpened. An office. Somewhere underground, by the look of it. Cement walls. No windows. A man sits at a desk, the man from the photo. Same suit. Same quiet stare. He speaks, but not into the camera, to someone just out of frame. Subject 72 is unaware. Observation continues. Emotional resilience higher than expected. Subject is showing signs of instinctive resistance to manipulation. Recommends cessation of passive tracking. Another voice, familiar. Luca. He's not a subject. He's a person. He's my friend. The man doesn't flinch. That's your final warning, Mr. Delaney. The screen went black. Then a second file auto-opened. Text only. A letter. From Luca. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I messed up. I went too deep. I wanted to understand who you were because you were the only person I couldn't figure out. I thought I'd expose you, but instead, I found someone real. Honest. Sad, yeah, but real. And I hated how easy it was to love you like a brother. So I made my choice. I stepped out. If they erase me, fine. But I wanted you to know, you're not broken. You were never broken. You're the only one who was never pretending. My chest cracked open. Not with fear. With release. He knew. He saw me. Not as a threat. Not as an experiment. As a human being. And in the end, that mattered more than whatever conspiracy he'd uncovered. Corinne was crying softly now, her hand over her mouth. Why would he protect you, she asked. I closed the laptop. Because I forgave him. I stood up and looked out the window. Nothing out of place. Just wind and streetlights and the faint buzz of a world still moving. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel watched. Corinne wiped her eyes. What do we do now? I took a breath. The deepest one I'd taken in months. We live, I said. Honestly. Quietly. Without them. She nodded. For the first time, no argument. No coldness. Just silence. The good kind. I walked to the kitchen and made us both tea. The same kind I used to make when I was desperate to be noticed. This time, I made it because I wanted to. And when she smiled at me, small, unsure, but genuine, I realized something. The truth didn't break me. It made room for something better. Peace.